The US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has used a security summit in Singapore to warn allies that China could launch an invasion of Taiwan at any moment. He told those gathered, including Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles, that the US was prepared to fight and win decisively in the event of war in our region.
We will not instigate nor seek to subjugate or humiliate, but we will not be pushed out of this critical region. And we will not let our allies and partners be subordinated and intimidated. China seeks to become a hegemonic power in Asia, no doubt. It hopes to dominate and control too many parts of this vibrant and vital region. There's no reason to sugarcoat it. The threat China poses is real, and it could be imminent. We hope not, but it certainly could be.
Pretty strong words, but I'm not sure the US, which would expect its key ally in the region to fight alongside them, will be that encouraged by Anthony Albanese's response today.
What we'll do is we'll determine our defence policy, and we've invested just across the forwards an additional $10 billion in defence. Our position with regard to Taiwan is very clear, has been for a long period of time, which is a bipartisan position to support the status quo.
The problem we've got in this country, Freya, when it comes to the threat of China is the rhetoric coming from the government does not match their actions. Richard Marles was in Singapore, where Pete Hegseth, who you saw earlier, was speaking. And Richard Marles said China is rapidly expanding. It's the biggest build-up of conventional weapons since World War II. And he went on to say that the US presence in the Indo-Pacific is, quote unquote, deeply welcome. So that's pretty strong words. You would seem to think he's in agreement with our US allies. But on the other hand, his government is currently spending just 2% of GDP, and their big promise is it'll be 2.3% within 8 years. So on the one hand, the rhetoric is we've got a problem with China, and yet the behaviour is there's no problem with China. It doesn't make sense.
I think it's really because Labor is not willing to make the tough political decisions required to lift defence spending. If we were actually to lift spending to reach that 3%, we would have to be spending around $80 billion a year on defence. Currently, we're spending just $50 billion. So where would that money come from? Well, you would actually be forced to confront the bloated NDIS. You would be forced to make cuts to wasteful government expenditure. But that is something Labor and this Albanese government want to avoid at all costs. So they want to get the political clout by saying all the right things on defence, but when push comes to shove and they actually have to put their money where their mouth is, they are not willing to make the sacrifices to safeguard Australia.
That's a great point. And there's something else that the Albanese government is trying to avoid as well, and that's any ruffling of the feathers with our great friends in Beijing. Of course, they've long referred to Anthony Albanese as handsome boy, and agreeing with the US that there is a major problem and that we would fight to defend our democratic friends in Taiwan would risk ruining that relationship. And here's the thing with the Defence Force, Freya. You don't need a Defence Force until you need a Defence Force.
Exactly.
And then you need it right now. Amanda Rishworth, she was asked about this today, and she said the Labor government is very committed to defending Australia. That's why we're part of AUKUS, which will deliver one submarine in 2032. Except Pete Hegseth was saying today that the Chinese military have said publicly, and we all know this, that they want to be ready by 2027 for the ability to invade Taiwan. So the fact that Amanda Rishworth says, well, don't worry, China might invade by 2027, but we'll have a Virginia-class sub by 2032, doesn't fill you with a lot of confidence that the Albanese government are really committed to the defence of democracy in our region. Exactly,
and that's the problem with defence. The lead times on these projects, we're talking 10, 20, 30 years even. And the decisions that are being made today, this is for all the young people watching tonight, it's our generation that is actually going to have to deal with them in 20 years' time. And by then, it will be too late. We have a small window of opportunity to safeguard Australia. If we miss that, well, I don't want to think what will happen.
You're absolutely right.